What's good, y'all? What's good? Welcome back to the Passive Income Network. My name is C. Will, and I'm going to tell y'all right now, we are going in today. We're going in today. So as I told you guys in the last stream, I said, listen, we're going to do a deep dive on Stellar Lumens, and we're going to do a deep dive on XRP. These two coins, these two cryptocurrencies are ready, and particularly XRP for its banking infrastructure. And then we have Stellar Lumens, humanitarian aid, infrastructure for payments, and a whole lot of mind-blowing information I'm going to be sharing in this video. So as you guys join the stream, make sure you put XRP in the chat. Make sure you put XLM in the chat. And I want to know, which coin do you want me to start with first? Should I dive into the XRP information, or should I dive into the Stellar Lumens information? Put XRP in the chat, put XLM in the chat. So today's topic, Stellar XLM RWA files revealed. That's what we will be talking about. Then the next one, is Ripple XRP becoming the bank? This is part of this crypto news that I think is very explosive. So let's set the scene right here. So we'll start off with Stellar Lumens. We'll talk for a second and then go to the XRP. So put XRP in the chat, put XLM in the chat. So XLM, as I've been talking to you about, has positioned itself for humanitarian aid. It has positioned itself for payments. We talked about Marshall Islands. They have the UBI going on right now in Marshall Islands. That's universal basic income. Marshall Islands is a small island country, about the size of DC in terms, but spread out like it's the size of Mexico. Very spread out, about 24, 25 different islands. They need to make sure the money can be sent across those islands easily, okay? That's where Stellar Lumens come in. Then you got the Acuna wallet. That's what we're talking about, the Acuna wallet. That's where Idris Elba, one of my favorite actors, he has built a wallet in partnership, co-founded with the head of Stellar Lumens Foundation, and they have built payment rails in a wallet so that way people in Ghana and across Africa can have a way to send and receive money and use it like a bank account for their creator earnings. Put XLM in chat if that makes sense. So that's what they're talking about here. And then you got the humanitarian aid efforts all throughout the world, especially in developing countries where a humanitarian aid organization in like a UN type situation will send money via the Stellar Lumens rails so that way people can buy the resources that they need. And all they need is a simple phone. Smartphones are very, very cheap now. You don't need an iPhone 20, iPhone 17. All you need is a simple device with some maybe Starlink, some internet connection. Internet around the world is global, y'all. It is a global infrastructure of internet. So what we're going to do is dive into Stellar Lumens first. We're going to dive into Stellar Lumens first, and then we'll finish off with XRP. Let's get started. So here it is right here. This is the document that I found that I thought was very powerful and very important to get an understanding, especially for big institutions, about Stellar Lumens. After I gave you all that background, let's dive in. So this is the Stellar institutional infrastructure for global settlement and tokenized assets. Global settlement, I just broke down some of the examples, and tokenized assets. And remember, Stellar is a blockchain partnered with Chainlink to put United States global GDP data onto the blockchain. So that's another interesting piece of information that this blockchain can handle. So here we go. A growing number of regulated financial institutions, Franklin Templeton, Payment, WisdomTree, MoneyGram, have chosen the Stellar network for settlement, tokenized assets, and global payments. This report examines the Stellar network's settlement efficiency, institutional asset issuance, and protocol native compliance primitives for payment networks, asset managers, fintech builders, and institutions evaluating the tokenized asset and settlement opportunity on Stellar. So they're setting the scene by saying who this is for, okay? That makes sense to y'all. So you have cross-border stablecoin settlement. They talk about the volume trends, the entity adjusted activity, and capital velocity signals across 7 stablecoins and 4 fiat currencies. Then you have the institutional treasury and yield. Okay, we're talking about different opportunities for treasury management, on-chain yield. Then we have the client compliance infrastructure. This is that where the Genius Act ties in. Protocol native freeze, clawback, and authorization controls. Some of y'all don't like that, but with the Genius Act passing, this is how they stop the money laundering activities, the things that the U.S. government does not approve of. Okay, tokenized real world assets. This is one of my favorites. 1.1 billion plus in tokenized government securities. These are bonds. Remember, Ondo has treasuries. Some of them are on Stellar Lumens, on XRP. Money market funds and commodities from Franklin Templeton, Spico, WisdomTree, and Etherfuse. Then you have developer and technical infrastructure, Stellar smart contract growth. So this is the documentations, the GitHub stuff. This is what these big institutions need to tap into so they can program and plug into what they have in their systems. So you got to have a great technical infrastructure playbook. Strategic outlook with the data signals for regulated asset issuance, government adoption, and Stellar's positioning as settlement infrastructure. So let's get to it. We're going to dive through some of these here, and then we'll go into XRP, what I'm really excited about as well. So if you go down to here, here's some of the numbers. Stellar institutional infrastructure for global settlement and tokenized assets. You got 17 stablecoins, 2.3 billion raw, and 352 million adjusted. That's the average stablecoin volume in the last 12 months. That's a lot of volume. 53 million monthly RWA volume in the last 6 months. That's crazy as well. And then 67 RWA projects, 10 issuers, 52 million smart contracts, innocations. So that's the usage. So what makes Stellar's different? So again, the key findings at glance, you got the settlement efficiency, cheaper, faster, instant settlement, unlike Ethereum, okay? Institutional asset issuance, a lot of companies are already working with them, and then they're compliant, as I told you, when you're dealing with the Genius Act and the Clarity Act to come. So when you look at the strategic positioning in digital finance infrastructure, this is why Stellar is killing it. Settlement is a correspondent. That's a traditional system. It's correspondent banking. The blockchain equivalent is blockchain rails. That's Stellar. And Stellar's role is core settlement, 5 to 7 to add a block to the network. Seconds versus days. You ever send a wire transfer? Say wire transfer in chat if you don't like that. Expensive, slow. Then you got Forex routing. So they use the traditional system, interbank Forex markets. Blockchains is the native DEX and automatic market makers. And then Stellar's role is the path payments, atomic multi-currency routing. Okay. And that's the infrastructure, again, of the blockchain. And when you go compliance, you have banks level controls. Smart contracts can emulate what banks do. And then you have, as we mentioned, the compliance that the Genius Act requires. So for asset issuance, you got custodians, right? Like Templeton, Franklin Templeton. On the blockchain, you have tokenization. Stellar works with these companies. Treasury, that's cash. Blockchain is yield. The protocol, you have the T-bills, you have different DEXs, a lot of different integrations. And again, this report for us is to understand their thinking, okay? Put XLM and XRP in the chat. Appreciate y'all. So this understands who's supposed to be reading this. I'm reading this to you guys because I think this document here lets us know the positioning that they want the world in. If y'all been listening to Larry Finke talking about this stuff. So chief executive officers, business officers, CFOs, treasuries, risk managers, technical decision makers, okay? So when you go look at Stellar's multi-currency stablecoin ecosystem, this is the reason why they can work with these banks. You got USDC, which is the US dollar, the euro, and then these are the companies that issue it. Circle is the main one. PayPal USD, that's the Paxos, that's the dollar. Then you got the GYN, which is the GMO Trust issuer, which is the yen. You got the dollar here with the ZUSD. Then you got the Australian dollar, okay? Then you have the euro again in another form. You have the Swiss franc in the euro. You have impact stablecoin, and then regional corridors. So you got the United States dollar, you got the Japanese yen, you got the Australian dollar, you have the euro, you have the Swiss franc. Makes sense to me. They have the main currencies essentially that the Western world uses. And especially if you're doing humanitarian aid and whatnot, that's obviously what they're going to be sending them. And then USDC dominates. Okay. That's a dominating coin in that situation. So then we have 15% of stablecoin transfers volume adjusted. Volume is growing. And I want to get down to another important part here. Let's scroll down. Okay. Oh yeah, the highlight. So MoneyGram, okay. MoneyGram's integration with the Stellar network offers a crypto to cash solution across 170 companies. If you ever used MoneyGram back in the day, you know what MoneyGram is. They're working with Stellar. Then you have the PayPal USD. A lot of us use PayPal. I definitely use PayPal. I use Stripe stuff. I use Venmo. PayPal's decision to issue PayYUSD on Stellar is a notable institutional signal. PayPal does not deploy to blockchain networks without thorough technical security and compliance review. MoneyGram, PayPal, big financial companies. And then if you go to cost per transaction, this is the SWIFT banking system here. Okay, put XRP, XLM in the chat. So $15 to $50, I just talked to you about a wire transfer. Takes 2 to 5 days. You don't want to send it on a Friday, okay? And Ethereum is 50 cents to $50. You don't know what's going to happen. It can even freeze if the network is too crowded. Solana, very cheap and very fast, but it does sometimes have failed transactions. The blockchain could be down at any damn time. Stellar's 0.003 for a smart contract in 5 seconds. Absolute. Makes sense. The better here would be obviously Stellar, and that's why they're pointing it out. Okay, so then as we dive deeper here, we go down. This is all great information. And I talked to you about compliance. Big banks, government, UN, they care about compliance and the technical infrastructure and the risk. So we don't have to go there. You know what that's about. They want to make sure, I'll just go through the topic real quick. They want transparency and auditability. They want to see if you can audit. They want to know if you technically can work and if you can fight the things that they're against with, okay? Money laundering and all that type of stuff. So then you go to number 4. We have tokenized real world asset securities. And I know y'all have not seen this document. If you've seen this document, either way, put XLM in the chat. So you have the RWA landscape on Stellar. The tokenization of real-world asset represents the next generation for markets. Stellar has emerged as a leading chain for institutional-grade real-world asset tokenization, okay? Again, I told you, you have the different products. This is the U.S. government money funds. You have treasury bills, hedge funds, tokenized securities, real estate, treasuries, gold, commodities, government bonds, private credit, corporate bonds, treasuries, all of this tokenized on Stellar Lumens. This is big. Everything Larry Fink said is going to happen has been happening so far. So then we'll scroll down towards the end of this here, and then they'll have, obviously, the rest of this information here is important, but developers will be like, how do we program this? Well, the language that they use, if you're a developer, you know about JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Java, Go, Rust, and Net. That's what the same technologies for coding that the AI uses, that all the big institution uses. Stellar says they're ready. Now, as we finish this one out, conclusion and strategic outlook, okay? The on-chain evidence presented in this report supports a clear thesis. Stellar has evolved from a cross-border payments protocol, that's what we were all hyped about a few years ago, into an institutional-grade financial infrastructure. Infrastructure is the key word. Companies like NVIDIA was popping because it makes semiconductors, the infrastructure, the hardware for the systems, okay? That's where Stellar is at. Supporting settlement, tokenized assets, and programmable compliance. Catalyst for institutional adoption, regulatory landscape, the MiCA in Europe, evolving US stablecoin legislation. You have Stellar smart contract ecosystem maturation. Remember, they didn't really have smart contracts like that. They have upgraded their system. Government adoption, RWA secondary market. And again, stablecoin settlement, treasury and yield, compliance, real world assets, and developer platforms. And then here's all the sources and the contributors of the people who did the study. Now, y'all, tell me what you think about that. Tell me what you think about that. Put XLM in the chat if you think that document that I just showed you guys about tokenization and all that was fire. Let me know what you think about that. Now, let's get to XRP. I realize I'm on limited time today, so we're going to move kind of fast. Bear with me here. So XRP, put XRP in the chat. And this is the one that's very important, you guys. You guys got to understand this one here. I know y'all been wanting this one. So here we go about Ripple. This is about the stablecoin payments landscape. So 100 billion is processed, 60 markets, 51 real-time rails, 1 billion market cap, all under a year. This is the RLUSD produced by Ripple. Put XRP in the chat. So you have the whole ecosystem all on one platform. Here we go. Stablecoin access. You guys know about Circle and them, Tether, but you have now Ripple. On-ramps. Ripple has their own off-ramps. Virtual accounts. Ripple has that as well. So you can use the money, the stable coins, go on and off any country with internet. Payment processing. Now you don't just need Stripe. Ripple can process payments. Remember, they have acquired banks and banking licenses. Payment orchestration. Ripple. Custody. Ripple could be your custody. Payment networks. Ripple can do the network. Wallet as a service. Now you have a Ripple wallet. And then what blockchain does this all go to? XRP. XRP is a settlement layer. This is XRP. XRP as a settlement layer. XRP as a transaction fee. Put XRP if that makes sense. And then you have this information here. Brad Garlinghouse, this is the founder, CEO of Ripple. He says, huge news. Ripple just received conditional approval from the USOCC, which is the official office of the comptroller of the currency. Okay. That's for America. Ripple just received conditional approval from the office to charter Ripple National Trust Bank. They just received a bank charter. That's crazy to me. This is a massive step forward, first for RLUSD, setting the highest standard for stablecoin compliance, both federal and state oversight. To the banking lobbyists, your anti-competitive tactics are transparent. You complain that crypto isn't playing by the same rules, but here's the crypto industry. Directly under the OCC's supervision and standards, prioritizing compliance, trust, and innovation to the benefit of consumers. What are you afraid of? And I'm telling you, if Ripple goes public, some of these banks are going to have major competition. You got the XRP token and you got the Ripple stock. But anyways, Ripple National Trust Bank, they're officially have been chartered. That's crazy to me. And then not just in the US, if you go look at what's going on overseas, Ripple is essentially in the best banking position. And that's why I said, is Ripple XRP becoming the bank? And I think we just got our answers. We secured our preliminary electronic money institution license approval from Luxembourg's Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier. This is a pivotal step towards scaling Ripple payments across Europe, bringing institutional-grade digital asset infrastructure to the region. Again, let's see what
license to bring our. I'm Cassie Craddock, VP and Managing Director of the UK and Europe at Ripple, and I'm thrilled to announce that we've been granted our license to bring our crypto-enabled cross-border payment solution to the European Union. European customers can now access real-time settlement, global on and off ramps, and last mile payouts, and it's all managed end-to-end using Ripple's market-leading digital asset technology. The region is striding into the future of digital finance, and Ripple is here to power it.
I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you. Ripple, I'm actually really impressed. They whipped the pot with the banking. Again, they're coming at it from a different angle than XLM. So put XLM, XRP in the chat. Let me know which one you feeling the most. So that's some crazy stuff. They said both, feeling them both. Timothy said we like them both. Okay, so then you got Ripple payments now give businesses everything they need to move money globally across fiat and digital rails in one place. Collect, hold, exchange, and pay out in both fiat and stablecoins. So essentially, you have more examples of companies that are already doing it, right? And then what you have is the deep dive, which I showed you the stablecoin payments landscape. Okay, so they have a banking license. They have European and United States regulations. They have the licenses. They have the full infrastructure, as I just showed you, and I'll show you again, the full infrastructure. This is kind of getting crazy. Everything that a bank has plus blockchain, they have it all. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I thought this live stream is one of the most important I've done in a while. Okay. Now let's continue. So Ripple has moved into Australia. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. They moved into Australia, another country.
APAC continues to lead in digital asset adoption and innovation. We're seeing real momentum with financial institutions and with banks. That's why securing our Australian financial services license is such an important milestone. Customers in Australia will be able to leverage Ripple payments for real-time settlement, global on and off ramps, and last mile payouts, all managed end-to-end with Ripple. With more than 75 licenses worldwide, Ripple continues to lead on responsible regulation, and APAC is a major driver of that growth. We're excited to keep building across the region and to support the next phase of institutional adoption throughout Asia Pacific.
That's crazy. I'm telling you. So Ripple is like, listen, we everywhere. And I'm not done yet, y'all. I am not done yet. If you've seen how I'm making this flow, this is the picture that is very important. Yes, put XLM fire in the chat, put XRP fire in the chat. So I think we have two major winners here. Two major winners here. Okay. So here we go. And here we go. So Ripple is going all in on Brazil, United States, Europe, Australia, Brazil. This is crazy. Yes, put XRP in the chat. Put XLM in the chat. This is crazy. Ripple is going all in. So Ripple Payments has processed $100 billion, 60+ markets, live with Banco Genio, Braza Bank, Nomad, Azify, and more. Ripple Custody recently launched in Brazil with CRX. Ripple Treasury, decades of corporate treasury management expertise. And then the Ripple has a 1.5 billion RLUSD, their stablecoin, market cap. And it's live on Mercado, Bitcoin, Foxbit, Ripio, and more. One provider, the compliance stack. At some point, they can be like, this is a monopoly for payments. That's crazy. So again, XLM's taking one approach, Ripple's taking another. And then here we go. So this is very interesting here. Let's play.
For bits of business.
So
the journey of innovation for stablecoins is really just the beginning. It's reinventing, reimagining how money moved around the planet.
Yes.
I am Gabriele Zuliani. I lead the revenue and sales for Bits of Business. Bits of Business, a company founded 11 years ago in Mexico, originally as a crypto exchange, created this.
Now we say in Mexico. Are y'all catching that?
Second new business line, which is dedicated to B2B money movement. We are trying to solve the ultimate challenge of moving money across borders, which has been hindering the industry for the last 40, 50 years. When Bits of Business was created, there were two very obvious use cases in LATAM. One was remittance, and the other one was volatility of the local currencies, both of which were immediately found as great solutions addressed by blockchain and cryptocurrency and stablecoins.
And then this is where Ripple plugs in. This is exactly where Ripple plugs in. And I didn't even mention, but I'll mention it now. You got the licenses in Singapore and the licenses in the UAE. That's the United Arab Emirates. So they basically everywhere: South America, Central America, North America, Europe, Asia, and the so-called Middle East. Wow. Put XRP in the chat, put XLM in the chat. They both got me really excited. Okay. One more thing to show y'all before I leave this stream here. And this is just a little bit about what's going on in terms from the perspective and information given to us by Brian Armstrong. Then I'll wrap this all up.
All of the bank CEOs right now, the large banks, et cetera, are leaning into stablecoins and crypto generally. Like they're integrating stablecoin rails because they're faster, cheaper. They can save them money with Swift fees and move their client funds around faster. They're also using crypto to tokenize their various funds and assets. And then they're providing crypto trading to their clients, like in their high net worth clients and things like that who want access to these assets. We have a product called Coinbase Prime and Coinbase Developer Platform that helps any institution integrate crypto services, whether that's wallets, trading, payments, et cetera. And we are the leading provider of that for institutions.
Okay, did I wrap that up? This is Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong. He mentioned everything we talked about in this video, from the payment infrastructure, tokenization, think Stellar Lumens, right? And all the way to the banking, the stable coins, the settlements, how Swift is less powerful than the blockchain settlements. That's XRP. Mind blown right there. So that's what we got for y'all today. Put XRP in the chat, XLM in the chat. That's what we got. So if that makes sense, why Stellar Lumens RWA files being revealed is very powerful. The study shows what has already been done and big partners. So that way you can then read that report as a decision maker, model what you're seeing there and integrate it into your systems. And then XRP is like, we're going to take the banking approach. We are a bank on the blockchain managed by Ripple, full integration and ecosystem. So emerging markets, developed markets, new countries, you can just integrate fully with Ripple and you don't have to always rely on Swift banking system. It makes sense for me. And again, for us, it's like XLM, XRP as stacking as a holder is one of the ways that we can get involved with this. And then if you're building a business, you may consider using these technologies. That's what I got for y'all. So on the next live stream, let me know if you want a similar deep dive for Algorand and Hedera, and we'll put them in the proper position, just like we just put Stellar Lumens and XRP. And if that's what you want, type algo in the chat, ALGO, and then also type HBAR in the chat, HBAR. Again, I appreciate y'all. That was the deep dive that I couldn't wait to share with you all. And again, my name is C. Will with the Passive Income Network. Until the next time, y'all, peace.
Passive income, gold in my dental. Thank God for my mental. Investor fundamentals, told my girl it was simple.